thank you for being with us. And thank you so much. I love being here with you, sharing with this community, with all of you. So nice. Let's begin with this experience that I have had working and playing with Vite. So let me tell you and let's begin. So first of all, who am I? Okay, Oscar Barajas, best known as GNDX in social networks, and I am passionate about teaching, about technology, and yes, about JavaScript, even though I also like other programming languages and I work with all the ecosystem. So why am I here? I have had experience and the satisfaction to work with JavaScript from a long time ago. I started in web development from 2001. So in July this year, I have 20 years working in the ecosystem of web development, living through these updates that we know thanks to the history of all that is behind these technologies. And part of them are also part of me. Some others I did not meet, but I am still a passionate for these languages and content creation and also teaching within web development. So I am going to talk to you about my experience and what I do in this environment. So now you see my baby, who is called Oscar David Barajas, and we hope to take him in the next step of development. So let's begin with these topics that have to do with the importance. But first, I want to invite you to tweet and at GNDX and use the hashtag JSConfMX, because if you send some tweets about how you're living this amazing experience that we're having at JSConf, I am going to be showing these tweets. So I want to see how you're living this experience, your questions, and everything you want to share. And you can do it right now, because here in the integration, we're going to do it. And I am going to tell you a secret about why I'm asking this from you. So let's go on with this talk that I have prepared for you. First, let's talk about JavaScript. So it is well known that JavaScript was created in the middle of the browser battle a long time ago. Back then, when we had Netscape Navigator against Internet Explorer, and at that time, we lived a revolution and a battle for winning access, internet access through a browser. Several technologies were born there that nowadays we are using, and thanks to that, we have JavaScript. But of course, here we also have some things to consider. And it is well known that it was created in record time and with some details to take into account. And it is what we love and hate about JavaScript. But let's not worry about that, about those little details that perhaps will make us remember some things that we do not really like about JavaScript. But there is something that I want you to have in mind, and those are concepts that are going to be hard for us because we are not used to understanding them that way. These are these acronyms, these elements that may or may not have meaning to you and which are key. So why that are key to know what Vite is nowadays. So here we can understand the tool correctly and how this comes to change things. Why is it the future and why this is going to change the way we are going to work within web development. So I want you to understand concepts such as CommonJS or CJS, which is going to allow us to have a module system that is inspired in Node.js and that we have used, and we recognize some words which are require and export. So we have commons and we are going to see it in detail. Then we have another concept which are going to find, which is AMD, which is confusing because what does processor have to do with this? But I mentioned this because, of course, I have had this question, like what does AMD has to do? It is not related to processors, but it is about the concept of asynchronous model definition that allows us to have this division between what was considered CommonJS, but work with the part of asynchronous work. So we are going to use that in required.js, so that is important. Another topic is UMD, or in this case, Universal Module Definition, is a way in which we mix these concepts of CommonJS and AMD to have a way in which we can work. And this is before the ECMAScript, which is the standard that regulates our favorite programming language, JavaScript, showed what is now ECMAScript modules, which is within this review in 2015, and it is known as ES6. And here we start to import our resources and have several elements such as the export, which are key nowadays and can work correctly with our browsers and our applications. And since we understand these concepts in this summary, I want you to keep them later and to save them for the main part, which will allow us to understand the particularities. So now that we're here in the topic, let's begin to talk about what I want to work with, or what I want you to understand about Vite. What is Vite? Many people ask. So what it is, what does it mean? How is it done? Why is it here? So let me tell you that Vite is a tool thought by frontend, who is created by Evan You. So who is this man? Tell me more. Evan You is the creator of ViteJS, is one of the frameworks that is within this framework war, which I call it. And here they are fighting React, Angular, and also Vue. So Evan You created this tool directly to work within Vue, but not only for this point. This is something also very interesting, and this is because thanks to this developer, we have a very powerful tool that will allow us to create JavaScript applications using a framework, and it's going to allow us to be able to work without any trouble, to be very fast, because the word Vite is very fast in French, or it comes from that context. So we're talking about being very fast, very quick, and this is one of the things that this resource is focused on in performance, speed, and that which we are going to take advantage of as professionals, and that is something to think about. So Vite is not just thought for Vue. This is very important to think about. This is not Vue exclusive. It's not only going to be there. Let me tell you that yes, it is available so that you can prepare your projects with the main tools that we are using today, such as Angular, React, Svelte, and vanilla JavaScript. You can work with other elements and resources within TypeScript and also Vue, but of course they are very well integrated, as well as other tools, which are going to allow us to have a great amount of these tools, which are very popular within frontend, and to be able to be implemented in this tool, which is going to give us superpowers to create applications which are faster, with some characteristics that are going to denote changes that in our work in which we are going to build our applications, and with that advance professionally, taking advantage of this tool. So let's talk about the characteristics and why do I want you to consider that. And the features is what leads us into the future, towards the tool that is going to change the way in which we're working and the way in which we're playing with elements. And here we have some important characteristics, such as instant server start, which is going to allow us a service, an internal service on demand through ECMAScript modules, which is native. And that is the keyword. It's native, it's incorporated within the resource, and we are going to be able to work faster in our applications. And we are also going to implement this concept about our tools, our favorite tools to build. So this is one of the things that is going to give us an advantage. And I want to stop here for a moment, because when we're working with our applications, or when we're playing with some element within what we want to create as pros, we need to have this versatility to work very fast, to test, so that the changes and the elements flow, so that our time is well used, so that this feature is present within this resource is going to be essential, so that we don't have to have a large setup and we can start working directly. Another thing that we have to think about is all this part about hot module replacement, which is going to allow us to make these elements faster with dependencies, specific dependencies that we're going to be working on. So having all these resources without having to wait that the server is preparing our application, and every change that we're making is immediate, and of course fast, is going to not make us having to wait for compilation. And in the example I always make, a lot of times, sometimes we are making a change, we make a typo, and we see that the change is failing and we have to go back, and that is a lot of time, and we'll waste that time. And that time, well, it is our professional responsibility. So having this tool, optimized tool, that will allow us to work without issue is going to be the key. And this is something that I really like a lot. So another element that we will find is these great features that are incorporated. And remember that we as professionals love to mix technologies, love to work with the trends, with what's happening today. And here we need to say that Vite incorporates elements that have to do with TypeScript, CSS, and it allows us to work correctly with the great tools that we are already incorporating or mixing these technologies, which I mentioned before, so that you can take advantage of that for your project, and they are incorporated within the core of the tool. So this is important to consider because it will allow us to have projects with the standards, with the highest standards that we want to implement within our projects. So this is one of the great tools that personally I like a lot, and it is the acceptance on TypeScript. So this is something that we have to emphasize a lot. Another element that I really love is the optimized build, which is that this is going to work with the ECMAScript modules to be working correctly. And something interesting about this is that it optimizes a lot because it's working with concepts and implementations that it has worked with before, isolated with other projects, so we can implement resources somewhere else, and it will allow us to optimize our projects, which is going to be faster. And the great advantages is that we get much performance in this area, and these tools are not thought for JavaScript, but we are using processes from other programming languages within this Go use. So when we use these resources within the tool, we're going to be able to take advantage of it for our projects. So from completing an application, a very robust application, and we will reduce the time drastically. So this is one of the characteristics that I really like. I have been experimenting with that and trying to understand, because we're going to be more advantageous for us for our projects. And personally, I like it a lot. Another characteristic is that we have plugins. So Vite has some plugins with which we can work, but we also have a superset, and we have a great community, and this is something that I really love. The community is always so important because we have developers, and that the community is supporting each other. We have these plugins that can be added, and we can take more advantage of the tool. And this is something I recommend, and I want you to participate, to explore, and to support this community, not just consume the tools, because we're going to be given tools to begin in this, which are going to help us, but we must contribute. And I invite you to do it because it's going to be a difference, because when what you provide is going to be used by the community, and thanks to this element, and thanks to universal plugins, we're going to have official elements within documentation, and also third-party elements created by you or by me who also want to contribute. This is a very interesting topic.
Y bueno, and thinking in this big standard, in this big resource that we allowed us to have what we call that are the tools, that is the theory inside the community. APIs that will be already typed, and we can integrate and work with our resources that Byte has already gave us. So these are the main features, the fully typed APIs. So let's talk about let's talk about which problems Vite solve. What is the particular need that we are going to have, or why do we need to take into account that this is key? This is key so we can have all the advantages. Okay, I want to mention I'm here to solve something in particular. So before this was available for the browsers, there were no way to write JavaScript in a more friendly way. So that's why we use these resources, Webpack, Parcel, among others. And this help us to use our app so we can have a more friendly structure, easier to read. And with this, we can prepare our project with our vision of our application. But this was a very important part. So nowadays we use these concepts and we implement it in a correct way, because the majority of the project, we use this as the predilect or our favorite tool. And with this, you have to work with the processing of the models, and with this, all in a big process. So therefore, this is like a neck bottle when we prepare our projects. So there is when we have some resources that will help us, and with a role is part of the Svelte. It's a project that in some way is preparing us so we can implement in a native way the script models, and then to have the next step. So what we want to implement is this is something fundamental, and we are going to have a better performance, a best resource to keep going. So this problem, Byte is already working on it. They started implementing inside Vue, and nowadays we have a tool not only to work with Vue, but any type of library that you are using right now. Angular, React, Vue, Svelte, Light Element, React, among others. Also configure with TypeScript or vanilla JavaScript. This is important to remember, because with this we have a big value. It's not thinking just for one tool, but it's it's open. So when we implement this model in a native way, we can work better. And as I already mentioned, we can integrate with this build, and with this, we can work faster in that process, because we are working with another languages. And of course, that is a very, very good thing. So let's try it. As I already mentioned, there are some technologies that are supported. So this is not linked just to one. Even though was born in a very spot point, as Evan you mentioned, is open for you as a customer to create project in different technologies according to your needs. For example, React project, Angular project, vanilla JavaScript, as I already mentioned. So I love this. This is something that I explore, because recently I've been working with Element. I like this concept, and I'm fan of Svelte and React on my daily life, because I collaborate with this type of project. So if I only have one resource, this is important for this tool. I've started to migrate some project with this resource because I love this one, versatility. And one of these projects is the one that you are watching here, this type of presentation, this research that what is Vite? Well, are distributed with this. I started to migrate some other project with visuals, so you can start like this. This is a mixture of comments, for example, some Svelte tools and other ideas. And this is supported thanks to these technologies. And that, therefore, I'm very, very happy about this. And I want to invite you to be part of this community. There's a lot of community. There's a lot of people using this resource. So log in. This is the link. It's not so friendly, but you can take a screenshot and that's it. So let's take the picture, and so you can remember the link and you can access to our community. You can know everything that is happening and you can collaborate. This is an opportunity. You can start with a translation area and then resolve some issues or bugs. And you will acquire a professional level because you are looking for that. So take this into account. And very fast, let's see the Twitters. I will show you. We are listening, and this tool is built directly with this tool. This is a clear example of how to implement and to integrate in something like this, in this video, for example. And to close my presentation and open to the Q&A session, let's talk about the competency. And I want to mention this so you can have the idea and you say, well, goodbye parcel, and I will change and I will go to Vite. No, just give a chance, understand how this works, and the main feature, small world, faster, when you start your server, how the hot model works better, it's more friendly. So all these features with other standard resources of script or TypeScript, at the same time with the Swapd full product down elements. So again, an opportunity to adapt to these tools, but this doesn't mean that will take place to another. It's just one more tool. And remember, Vite is implementing new concepts and at the same time incorporating Rolu. This means that, well, doesn't mean that tomorrow this is only one solution. It's one more option. And let's also remember, explore and know resources, tools, so you can be a better professional. And as I mentioned, I already have several projects with different tools, and I profit from all the advantages. And when do you are going to have this need? Well, when you are part of the team to solve a lot of needs, and you can say, hey, you know already Vite, and you can explain all this concept, and you can have all the context. And in which moment are you going to take the advantage? Well, don't say pro just one tool. We are pro software engineer. We know the technology and we know the advantages of all of them. I want you to invite you. Don't put this versus the other, as you are seeing in this picture, but know the tool and take it to the next level. That's one of my inputs for this talk. And you can have it in Angular, React, Svelte, Async, anything that has to do with our ecosystem. Don't waste time to know which is more or less. Just again, give it the opportunity to all the tools and know all the tools, all the advantages, to have a very fast deploys, and to, again, a friendly job. And as I already mentioned, I want to be ready for all these environments to perform my projects, to teach others. And currently, I like to teach with this and some courses. And with these courses, I start to show this tool. Again, Svelte, React, and all of them. And with all of this, I thank you for being in this talk. And my name is Oscar Barajas, and also known as GNGX. And this was my experience and advantages with this tool. You can find me in all my social media that you are watching in this slide. If you are in the crypto world, you will have the URLs in order to know about this ecosystem.